Welcome to the new episode of Behind the Success. In today's episode, we have Bhushan Dahal with us. In today's episode, we are going to talk about education, education in Nepal, and also about how new schools, how modern era schools have been designed in Nepal. Just to introduce Bhushan, Bhushan is currently Executive Director for Kids of Kathmandu, and he has experience being an educator and also working with the organization for over 10 years now. Currently, they have 4,000 students who are studying with them in their own campuses. And apart from this, Bhushan has also been featured in the United Nations documentary, Nepal Rebuilding After the Earthquake. So welcome to the show, Bhushan. I'm really excited for today's conversation with you.
Gaurav, thank you so much. I feel honored and I'm equally excited for this one.
Thank you. So now, before we get into the conversation, my first question is more about, because I'm sure a lot of people will be having the question about what you do and what exactly this organization does. So I'd like to know from your perspective, what is exactly Kids of Kathmandu and what were the motivation forces behind you joining Kids of Kathmandu back in 2012?
Gaurav, for me, Kids of Kathmandu is a platform where we share dream to the kid, or it's a platform where we try to have a space where kids could dream their future, right? That's how I see it. Just to go into a specific, what our organization does is we build school in some of the remotest part of Nepal. We always believe that, the remote you go, there's more need of the development work, and education being the foundation of everything. We believe going into a rural place and building a school always add value to the work that we are doing. But our objective is not only just building a four wall, and call that a school, but actually building something which is beautiful in design, which is beautiful in the way it operates. Being working in a government school, you assume that only the people who does not have enough financial resources goes to a public school. So what that does is, it does not have enough infrastructure, it does not have the support system required, right? So what we do is we go to the school, we build them this beautiful infrastructure, and also help with the support system like computer lab, the libraries, the furnitures, the water purifications, and everything that makes a school a school. So that is what we do, Gaurav. That is the first part. Second part, what motivated me to do, or what motivated me to join in 2012? To be very honest, I was just graduating from my undergrad, and I knew about this opportunity back then. It was only registered in US. So being this typical South Asian, younger guy who thought that working in an American NGO is a dream, and I was like, sure, whatever it is, I'll join it, right? So it was that way I joined the organization. I knew they were working for the children, but it was just an American NGO crush that I had, which made me join then. But since then, the life had changed in a good way, Gaurav.
That's very interesting. Now, since you talked about, I'm actually more curious to know that how life has changed for you, because I believe we all have certain experiences which are life changing in one way or the other. I'm just trying to ask that out of curiosity. I would like to know how you see life before 2012, and now what changes you believe actually came to you post 2012.
This might be a bit philosophical answer, Gaurav, but I feel, or I have experienced this power of giving and the satisfaction that it gives back to you has been the greatest learning, because in the world where I am working, it's all about giving back to the community, right? Whether you'll be helping the kids, or kids in an orphanage, or the kids who has been infected by HIV, or or simply a school where the whole community goes. So we are in a position where we have this amazing facility to give to the society, and that satisfaction and that happiness that we receive in that one has been my greatest learning post 2012, and that is something that I have really enjoyed in the work that I'm doing. And it's satisfying, it's just like just think of this, just building a school. Look, it already sounds beautiful, isn't it? And just to be part of that, and it's not that it will be over in 2 years. It will go for ages. It will go for generations to generation. So just reflecting on that just gives me so much happiness. So it's always that satisfaction. Again, I'm repeating myself, but the power of giving, uh, the happiness that comes with it is something that I have cherished after 2012.
That's lovely. Now, since we all know that you have been featured in United Nations documentary and specifically talking about earthquake which came in 2015, and personally, it was a really sad moment to see how many lives actually got affected because of it, and I'm sure a lot of people also suffered loss in terms of education and school infrastructure. Now, I would like to know more about that. How does you see earthquake in 2015 brought changes or disruption to you personally and professionally?
Gaurav, allow me to answer this with a story, because this is the story that I always love to narrate. Uh, and just to put everything in perspective. So Kids of Kathmandu, before 2015, we were helping kids from a marginalized community to get education, right? So since 2015, we came into actually school building world, or I would say somewhere around 2016, we started it. So in 2015, earthquake happened, uh, and we were going into several communities where they need that immediate relief that was required. Uh, so one fine day, I was on my motorbike, and my colleagues were coming behind me in a truck where we had these relief materials, the rice, lentils, noodles, so on and so forth. I reached there maybe half an hour earlier than my team, and I was sitting on in this beautiful tree. In front of me was this house which was completely sandwiched by an earthquake, and in comes a small boy, should be around 12, 13. Have a casual conversation. He shared that he lost his house. They are staying in this hut for a bit, and in like after having a conversation for 4 or 5 minutes, he comes to me and says, in a small, that childish voice, that brother, do you know any organization who builds a school, right? Until that point, I was not in school building. We were working to some different field. And being very honest, I said, I don't know anyone who builds school, but why are you asking me? The answer he gave me, Gaurav, I would say changed my life. Uh, so what he said was, on Friday, his English teacher was sharing a story in his classroom. Uh, she promised that she will complete a story on Sunday, but unfortunately, on Saturday, earthquake happened. The school was gone. The teacher, who was not from that community, went to her village to see her family. So the exact thing that this boy told me was, he was really curious to know how the story would end. And for me, that was not only this kid who wanted to go back to his school and hear the story. It's about, hundred and thousand of these kids who are staying home, not having an opportunity to go to the school and to hear the millions of story which would change their life, right? That was the point I realized, that this could actually create a situation of an educational void, and no one knows how long this will be. So that particular kid, that particular moment, uh, really inspired me to go into the world of building school. So thankful to my donors, to my team, to my network, that they agreed on going into the world of education and building a school. So for me, that particular incident, that particular boy, is really connected, and that has uh, changed the way that I have started seeing everything, Gaurav.
That's lovely. I mean, that's actually very moving to know when people come to you and genuinely ask what actually they need, and the little joy you know that somewhere inside your heart that whatever you're doing is actually not just transforming individual lives but a lot of lives. And I really would like to congratulate you for taking that step and changing how Kids of Kathmandu is now. I mean, in terms of, that's really lovely to know.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much.
Now, coming to, since we've been talking about the earthquake aspect, and I also believe that now uh, the entire world is moving towards sustainability. And you also talked about the importance of the aesthetics and the design point of view whenever you're building in school. So this is where I would like to know a little about that. What are your plans? I mean, in terms of sustainable design point of view, is there
Mhm,
anything specifically taken care of while you're building schools?
mhm. Uh, so I would like to connect with the same thing. I think I'll start from this from where I left earlier. Uh, as you said, what happened was bad. Earthquake was bad. So many lives were lost. Economically we were down. Uh, the number says around 8,500 plus schools were destroyed, so on and so forth, right? So it was definitely one of the biggest disaster that we have seen in our lifetime. But that also brings an opportunity. There was a school there, it was destroyed, which was bad, but we thought, we would take this as an opportunity to build a better school. So the school, which was just this four wall with one window, one door, uh, a blackboard, not even a whiteboard was there, and that was literally the school, right? So why don't we take this as an opportunity to build it better, right? Build it brighter. Then we started, the first thing, and we as a team, we are big believer that design can inspire. So we thought, the first step could be, let's design school in a different way, which is not traditional conventional school or that we have in the hills. A simple example of that, Gaurav, is what we decided to do is we decided to paint the doors and windows with different colors. We call it prayer flag color. So one room would be of the window and door would be of yellow, second one would be red, third would be blue, so on and so forth, right? And I remember the story when one sweet girl came to me and said, you know what, brother, this year I'm in red class, next year I'll be going into a yellow class. So it's not about going from grade 2 to grade 3, right? It's going from red room to yellow room. So simple as that. It was not additional cost to build something different, something beautiful, but something that kids can narrate and process it. So that is how we started thinking about the school. We will make it different in terms of design. The schools should have enough light, the schools should have enough ventilation, the schools should have enough doors and windows. The toilets would not be attached to a classroom. Sounds very basic, but something we were lacking a big time. So yeah, we actually took this as an opportunity to create something beautiful. I'm sure you will come to this question, but lately we have started building school with more of sustainable construction method. Trying to respect Mother Nature. We're using this rammed earth technology, which is much friendlier, very less cement and concrete that is used here, but still one of the most strongest school that you find in the world. So yeah, we took this as an opportunity, Gaurav.
That's lovely. So since you talked about the color patterns in terms of classrooms, I'm actually intrigued to know that does it attract more people to the school? I mean, what I'm trying to understand is that does design has a direct impact in terms of more kids coming to school every day?
It does, because look, I mean, I'm sure you can narrate this, with a Southeast Asian context, and when we go into a rural part, you know, uh, anything new would attract a lot of people, right? And also the area that we work, they didn't have a choice. I remember building one school where this little kid in grade 3, she used to walk 2 hour one way to reach the school that we built, right? So 2 hour one way, again, she has to walk back 2 hour to reach her home. And that was the only option that she had. If we don't have that school, either the whole family have to migrate to a different place, right? Or she has to quit education. So those are the kind of area that we work. And having this unique design, having something different in the school would always motivate kids to come to the school and attract new students there.
That's lovely. So now, coming to the next question, which actually came through a market research, and I mean through a research which we did on you. So we figured out that there are two other names who are also part of the initiative, and so I would like to understand the inspiration of Jamie Saunders and Andrew back in 2010 when they actually initiated the idea of Kids of Kathmandu, and what exactly were the idea when they thought of starting something like this.
I'm so glad you asked this, Gaurav. I'm actually very glad. Uh, so they are my co-founders, Jamie and Andrew. They are my co-founder. Again, an interesting story. So they were married and they decided to spend their honeymoon on something good. So they did some research, out of all luck, coincidence, whatever you want to phrase it. They found this orphanage, this organization who would help volunteers to transfer into an orphanage. Uh, they came here, volunteer in an orphanage for a week or so. Uh, and, like every other volunteer story, they fell in love with the kids. Uh, being born, raised in New York, they went back, thought that, we could do something magical to change the life of the kids. They went there, started doing a fundraise. On initial fundraise, they shifted the kids from public school to a private school, hoping that it would be better. They will get better education system. Uh, you know, Again, like every other donor in the initial days, they were so excited that they could change the whole life, whole world of everyone. Uh, but soon they realized, even though their intentions were very right, the process was not entirely right, and the receiver here were not utilizing the funds the way it should be. Uh, and then they decided to hire some local uh, and rest is history. So that was the first time when I came into the organization. So still we three are, I'm so blessed to call them my co-founders, but we three are the one who is making this team and doing whatever work we are doing. So that is when the journey started, Gaurav.
That's lovely. And it's actually, I would say, even if I reflect my co-founders, and thank you, I also believe that a lot of times you meet people and they are destined to meet you in a way where you just know that, okay, you are meant to work on the same purpose, and just things happen. So I'm actually very glad to know the story, and I am actually glad that I looked up more on the website to figure out the names, else the story would have been very difficult to figure out. But thank you for sharing that.
By the way, Gaurav,
Yeah.
totally out of context, but the name "Thank You" has, it should be one of the best name that you chose. I don't know what was the inspiration behind it. Such a lovely name, such a great name, Gaurav.
Thank you. We will definitely connect one to one in order to talk about it. Uh,
Sure.
so coming ahead, this is more about the education understanding, and I do have a lot of friends who are educators in one way or the other, and uh, and I heard them talking about 21st century skills. So now I would like to know that, as an outsider, I would like to know that what are the 21st century skills, and how one can ensure that their kids are going to be equipped enough in order to become much more advanced when we talk about the growing technology or a lot of AR VR coming into the existence now.
Uh, Gaurav, I received this question a lot. Uh, there is two ways that I would like to segregate my answer, my response to this one.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, I always try to see at a bigger picture. So for me, uh, the end of education should always be your character or your wisdom. That has always been my goal, and that that drives me. It's not about a certificate, or it's not about how much computer skill you have, how much mathematical skill you have. That's great, you need to have it, but at the end of the day, the more educated you are, that should reflect on your character, that should reflect on the way you behave, that should reflect on your daily lifestyle. That is how I see education, and that is how I see the importance of education. That's that's looking from the very high perspective. Second, the area that I work, Gaurav, talking about the impact of AI, the impact of EI, or during the time of this lockdown, this online classes, so on and so forth, all this thing, uh, unfortunately, is not that bigger part of conversation. There are areas where people have struggled to get electricity, and that is where we go and build school, right? So for me, gradually it will happen. It's a step process. You will not change everything overnight. For me, 21st century skill is always about making student a good human being, a dignified human being, who would always respect who they are, and who will always treat others in very dignified way. You talk about AI, you talk about computing skill, you talk about importance of English as a language, so on and so forth. I think those all are byproduct. First thing is who you are as a human, and if education has changed your character. That has been my very clear goal in the work that I do, Gaurav.
So how do you explain? Let's say I'm super sure my belief says that everyone has their own values,
Uh-huh.
and at the end, all values are right in one way. I mean, my values are my values, and it's going to be always right from my point of view, and so on and so on. So I'd like to know that how do you explain? I mean, how do you explain the idea of being human being? I mean, simply, I'm just trying to understand that what is your definition when it comes to explaining humanity?
So I really love this wall, which is called dignity. And I think for me, the whole definition revolves around the word dignity. How dignified you are as a human being. You know, and I think I'm repeating myself, but uh, how you treat other is where I see where your values holds. You know, and there's this beautiful quote we say that only thing that does not cost any money is smile, so use it. Again, for me, how would you treat other, how would you greet other, how would you respond in a situation where you are thrown in a difficult situation? To sum up, how dignified you are as a human being always talks about an individual value, and that is what I want to teach the generation to come. Again, this has to do a lot with uh, I mean, I hate to use this word, but like seeing the whole world and how it is shaping. uh, this human factor is what I see lacking in the whole thing, Gaurav. So that is why I think that is what making me come to this conclusion.
Great. So now coming from more of the education to personal side, and I would
Uh-huh.
actually curious to know because I believe education is one industry which has been hit massively in the times of pandemic. Now, I would like to know that how is your average day looks like before pandemic, and now the times like this, how you have been holding up, how you have been evolving or taking care of yourself.
Gaurav, do not judge me for the answer, but I had some great time during this pandemic. I mean, I should be very honest here. The sole reason is uh, I have a little daughter who is 3.5 years old. Uh, One of my complaint before lockdown was, I could not spend as much as time with her as much I wanted to. So lockdown gave me this immense opportunity to spend, all the time from morning till the point I slept with her. So from that aspect, I have no complaints. A, But B, work-wise, as you said, it has not been easiest of year, uh, professionally and personally. Professionally, in the sense that every year we would have easily built two school, and the whole work has been shut down. We could only build even not one school. We have completed it. Uh, More than that, the kids who were going to the school has been staying in home. Online study has not been effective on whichever locality they are trying, but in most of the places even that is not happening. A, they don't have enough IT. B, they do not have enough internet into the community. C, they don't have the teachers do not have the skills to do it. So they are staying home, and something that really worries me is the mental health of the kids, because we grow in this community where we are so close with the society, so close with the community that you go. It's the friend circle, the neighbors, the community. They hold so tight, and kids not being able to go to their classroom, their friends, uh, has a significant impact on their mental health, which really scares me, Gaurav.
Definitely. And in fact, this I would say is a very pressing issue, not just in Nepal, and I believe in every part of the world.
I'm
And
sure it is.
I assume that things definitely get better, and I'm sure there are better times coming up now. How things have been shaping up and how people have been taking care of themselves. Great. I was actually thinking that you're going to say about your daughter, and I'm actually glad to hear that out. And I was actually when you were about to say, and I was just thinking in my mind, okay, is he going to talk about her or not, or things like that. So I'm actually glad that you got time to spend with the family, and thank you for sharing that. Now we talked about how your day looks like. We talked about how things were before, and I also understand that being on the driving seat for an organization, it is also a must required to be a visionary and also to think ahead. So I would like to know that what are the plans? How do you see that things will be for Kids of Kathmandu once the pandemic settles in?
uh, Gaurav, look, for me, I set small targets, and I find happiness in small things. As I said earlier, we will continue to build a school, and uh, only this statement gives me happy. It gives me so much happiness. We will continue to build a school. Uh, we are not kind of organization who believes in number. Uh, you know, uh, I mean, like it would be great if I could say, I build 50 school in 1 year or 20 school in 1 year. Uh, that would be great. But for now, uh, feels like we will be building two school per year. And also, I'm very mindful that COVID has not only impacted us but all the donors all around globe, right? Maybe they are impacted more on an economic aspect than us. uh, so for a couple of years from now, we will be working on building a couple of school every year. That's very straight goal. But there's two other side that I'm thinking of doing. Actually, we have started doing is one, working into the quality side of education, which we were not able to focus that much before. uh, how do you make kids dream? How do you visualize kids a bigger picture? For example, in the area that we work, uh, being a YouTuber or being a graphic designer or being a photographer, uh, kids do not see that as a profession, or I would say kids do not know that this profession exists. So just to visualize them saying that if you play an flute, you could have an amazing career at it. If you are a great poet, you could earn whole money in the world. Just to make them visualize their dream is something that I want to do. And also I'm trying to we are working on this project called Digital Classroom, where we are trying to gradually digitize the class that we work. This pandemic has definitely shown uh, why it is important. So those will be the area that we will be working for a couple of years from now, Gaurav. So continue building school, continue giving support system, but helping with kids to dream, to visualize their dream, and also helping to digitize classroom would be our goal for coming years.
Thank you for sharing that, and I am sure a lot of our listeners are going to uh, support you and looking forward to uh, you do amazing work like you're already doing in Nepal and maybe other countries nearby. So, looking forward to that. With this, my next question is more about any parting thoughts you have for our listeners when it comes to about the education system in Nepal or anything particular in Nepal.
uh, Gaurav, one of the blessing I would say that I had is, or I have this opportunity to build a school which starts from grade K, and in some of the remotest part, uh, to the point that I teach into a business school in heart of Kathmandu. The range from these small kids to a business school where I teach graduation kids. This has given me an opportunity to reflect on what is working in our education system and what can be made better in our education system, right? uh, so the way I visualize it is, and I completely align with this amazing TED talk by Sir Robinson, where he says creativity and literature should be given equal treatment into a classroom. And I firmly believe that uh, we should do that, because we are still, our education system still runs in according to a literature, what is in the syllabus, what is in the book, what teachers knows, and there's very, very, very little space for the creativity. uh, so any educator working in Nepal, working somewhere in Southeast Asia, in most of the country, I think we should start a culture where we should start giving respect to a creativity side of the student, so that they can grow from it. It's not we will grow them, they will actually grow themselves to the place that they want to go. So I have always advocated that creativity should be given very, very, very importance into the classroom that we go.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, with this, we are officially done with the first segment. And now we go into the second segment, which is called Spotlight. The second segment is called Spotlight, in which we share one recommendation for our listeners. It could be any interesting reads, a movie, a documentary, which you find interesting. So I'll go with my recommendation, which is a show, or I would say a series of episodes on Netflix, which is called The Mind Explained. This came in 2019, and this show is actually uh, little aspect of understanding the education. And I would say, for example, the first episode is more about memory, and it is about how does remembering work, and it delves further into the way brain stores, processes the information or memories. Similarly, there are other episodes like why do we dream, why do we feel anxious, and how what is mindfulness and all of that. So I'm sure there's one aspect of education which our schools offers, and there is something else needed when it comes to the technology era, and I'm sure
Yep.
that a lot of you will find this really interesting to look into. Bhushan, your recommendation.
Great, Gaurav. I'm glad that you shared that recommendation. So I will skip the Netflix part and I'll go into some of the books, so that the audience have few options.
Definitely.
One thing, the TED talk that I was talking about, if anyone has not seen it, uh, I would highly recommend to see it. It's by Sir Ken Robinson, which is the entitled "Do School Kill Creativity?" I think this is the most inspirational TED talk that I have watched. So I highly recommend that. Two books that I would like to share in terms of uh, the reading is, one is called The Leading with Dignity, which is an absolute uh, art, when you talk about, as a leadership, as a position where you have this leadership role to perform, how this dignified leadership would help you to grow. So it's a must read for everyone. The second book that I really loved is by a spiritual guru, Sai Baba. The book entitled Sai Baba's Mahavakya on Leadership. uh, Again, as a younger generation, as a younger people who is leading an organization, or who wants to lead an organization, or who wants to know what leadership is, uh, this book will help you understand understand what leadership should be and how should you treat the people. So those would be my recommendation, Gaurav.
Thank you, Bhushan. I would really like to thank you for being part of the episode, and I am sure I actually learned a lot about the education and what exactly you've been doing, and you have been an inspiration. Thank you for being one, and I'm looking forward to upcoming days and seeing you grow and grow and grow. So thank you once again for being part of the show.
Gaurav, thank you so much. You have no idea how much delighted I am. And uh, to all the listeners who will be listening to this, you know, we always believe in this culture where network is net worth. If there's anything anyone would suggest us to do in a better way, who would or think there's a better approach to lead the project that we are doing, we are always open to take those advice. And again, at the end of the day, you want to go back to the community and serve them better. So anyone with any ideas, we would always take that. Go to our website, send us an email, and DM us anything us. We will always welcome. And Gaurav, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, brother.
Thank you. We'll be also sharing the link of your website in our show notes so people can directly find it easily and can reach out to you. Thank you once again,
Sure.
and I wish all of you a very nice day.